Welcome back to the program, everyone. I've been speaking with Senator Shehu Sani, civil rights activist, author, and Pan-Africanist tonight. We're focused on River State's crisis and matters arising. Senator, before we went on break, you were advocating for intervention by bicameral committee of the National Assembly. In other words, are you on the side of those who have asked for the takeover of Rivers Assembly by the National Assembly? Do you support this? Is this feasible?
Well, before the takeover, first of all, there should be an opportunity for both sides to make peace. And if there is no peace, certainly takeover becomes indispensable, because there must be government, there must be governance in the state. You can't allow chaos, disorder that will most likely catapult to violence in the state to continue to happen. So if they bring them together, there should be a committee, bicameral committee, which will include some members of House of Reps, senators from both parties, sit down, headed by the chairman of National Assembly, which is the Senate President, and also the Speaker, bring the 4 legislatures and 27 together. Let the dialogue continue. They talk today, talk tomorrow, for some few days and few weeks. At the end of the day, this problem can be resolved. But if it's not resolved, certainly National Assembly has to take over the affairs of the Parliament in River State to restore a parliamentary order that will save the situation for now.
Right. As some constituents from some local government areas said, they have commenced the process to recall some of the lawmakers in the State Assembly. What do you make of this?
Well, the process of recall is very long, and at a time like this, when a war is at hand, people will use all means available, threats, intimidation, designation, factionalization, and so many things will be used as a weapon. We know it very well that the governor, the minister, has been presiding over the state for 8 years. And within that process, he has established structures at almost all levels, local government, state, and even at ward level. And from what I have learned, many of those persons are his own loyalists. But the governor is also the one in control of the levers of power. So you can see the two sides, all of them are all armed with what they have. So the threats to recall, I think, is one aspect of a weapon that can be used, but it does not mean that it's going to happen. So until you have the members of the State Assembly resolving the issue, and Wiki and Sim resolving that issue, many things are going to come up at this level, and the earlier the problem is solved, the better. From the moment you start seeing protests in the street of Port Harcourt, one for Wiki and one for Sim, and then clashes happening, then it may spiral out of control. So they can make the threats to recall, but it's a very long process. I don't think it can happen, but anything in terms of war can be used as a weapon, which of course recall is one of them, but it's not going to happen.
Right. Let's now talk about the demolition of the Assembly complex. There's been a lot of reactions to that effect. How do you view the demolition?
Well, you see, Nigerian political space is replete with cases of brigandage and thuggery, not just by people at the lower strata of power, but people at the top echelon of the power. And the demolition, it's not, everyone knows, it's not about rebuilding the State House of Assembly, but it's making sure that the venue that can be used to impeach the governor is now being crushed, and now making it impossible for the members of the State Assembly to sit. And by the law, they're supposed to sit at in the chamber to be able to conduct the affairs of the parliament. So the state has enough resources to build even 10 state assemblies. And it's a strategy that has been used, and it's not the first time. But demolition, I think, is the first time in Rivers State. But shutting down state assemblies has happened. Stealing maces has happened. Removing the roof of state assembly has happened. But what Sim has done is simply raise the bar and shows that he is a truly disciple of his godfather. Because I know very well, if Wike was a governor of that state and anyone tried that, he can do more than that. So he has learned the art of that kind of strategy from his master. So that is why people who are in the habit of installing governors who are loyalists should learn from what is happening, that irrespective of whoever you put in office, if the qualification is loyalty, know it very well that at any time things can go the other side. And this is what we are having today.
Right. So, Senator, before the demolition, there was an inferno. And based on what the state government said, that building had to go down because of the integrity test carried out on it. But some have said before the demolition, the people of Rivers State deserve to know what caused that inferno, who did what caused what. A thorough investigation should have been carried out, and the people of Rivers State deserve to know before that demolition could have happened.
Well, the governor can make any form of explanation, but I think it's a survival strategy. He has to do what he has to do in order to save himself. Because if you have allowed them to sit down and initiate a process of impeachment, certainly it's going to happen. Wike is not a person that if he's a footballer, he's not someone you can give an inch of a gap. You know he's going to score goals. He's a fighter. He's one who is always determined to do what he wants to do and to go to every length. And he, the governor, knows that he was part of that war cabinet that sustained Wike for 8 years and also brought him into office. So he has been trained in that aspect of brigandage, and he has mastered it, and he is now applying it to the other side. So it's something which we are seeing, but the idea of fire in the State Assembly that led to an integrity test and then the demolition, everyone knows from a reasonable point of view that is simply an action to prevent the impeachment. There is no reason for fire there, and there is no reason for demolition, but the fact is that the governor did it as a survival strategy, and he did it because that's the only way he can at least rescue himself, knowing fully that the State Assembly is inhabited by loyalists of the minister.
Right. So I guess that's a lot was said on Rivers State, and we really hope that peace returns to that state, at least for the benefit of the people of the state. Now, let me take you up on the recent disaster that happened in Kaduna State, and that's the recent bombing of innocent people by the army. How do you assess that?
Well, it's important that we should understand that Kaduna has been a state that has suffered over 8 years of banditry and terrorism. Many of our villages have been sacked by terrorists. And in most cases, villages even pay fines and levies to terrorists to go to their farms. And their schools in rural areas that were shut down. Our military has been doing their best in the last few years, but they have not been able to achieve any serious progress in terms of tackling that problem. States like Zamfara, Katsina, Niger are also facing the same problem. So it is a scourge in the northwestern part of Nigeria. What we have seen in Tudunburi in Kaduna State, Igabi local government, is from what one of the national dailies tabulated, compiled, it almost about the 16th time, where you have the military launching attacks on civilian targets and killing innocent people. So what has happened in Tudunburi cannot be said to be a mistake, because there was a first airstrike which killed a number of people, and when those villagers converged to remove the corpses, a second airstrike happened. So the point is that who was managing or operating that drone? It's supposed to be someone who is trained. And before you launch a drone attack, you should have the necessary intelligence, the information. And putting that aside, why I said it's not a mistake is that, first of all, there were two attacks, the first strike and the second strike. How can you launch two sorties into a crowd and then say it's a mistake? It doesn't make sense to me. Secondly, the first statement that came from the army was that they committed an error. And then the second statement was that they were in pursuit of a legitimate target, which is a terrorist. So which law permits you, even if there is a terrorist in the midst of a crowd, for you to launch such a strike? Will you kill 100 people because of one terrorist? Can you burn a house because there is a snake there? It doesn't make any sense to me. Even if there is a terrorist there, you should not. You should have allowed that terrorist. It's better to allow that to escape than to kill 100 people. Everyone has seen it. Go to the hospitals in Kaduna State. Children have been orphaned, women have been widowed, families' lives have been destroyed. It's not about compensation, it's about lives of people. This is a preventable tragedy, and the military has to know that if they are going to successfully prosecute this war, they need the support, the cooperation, the solidarity of people on the ground. In that very local government, there were 3 attacks that happened in the last few years. The Federal School of Agri-Mechanization was attacked, and no terrorist was arrested, no terrorist was killed. The parents of those students have to pay over 200 million naira as ransom to secure the release of their own loved ones. The Nigerian Defense Academy was attacked by terrorists, and none of them was arrested or prosecuted in any way. The quarters of Nigerian civil aviation, airport quarters, was also attacked. Nobody was arrested. So drones and military aircraft should target terrorists and not civilians. And this has happened almost 16 times. In Niger State, it happened almost 3 to 4 times. In Zamfara State, in Katsina State. So if you continue on this attack on civil targets, then there will be no support that is needed to be able to achieve the goal of exterminating terrorism in our own part of the country.
All right. Now, Kaduna State has a new governor. How do you assess the current government in Kaduna State?
Well, we have a new governor, and he has challenges. The state has been wrecked by a loan which was borrowed, and the economy of the state has stagnated. And virtually, I wonder how he's going to run that very state, because the state has been wrecked. So he has inherited a state that is bitterly divided along with just an ethnic line, a state that has been strangulated by debt, a state that has an outstanding socio-economic crisis. So for now, I think the attention is how to bring people together and rescue the state out of debt. There are about 18 court orders that are currently lying in Kaduna State courts to garnish account of Kaduna State by contractors. You have a loan of almost about $600 million. Kaduna is the second most indebted state in the country. And this loan were collected when the value of Naira was 400, and now it's about 1,000 200 in the parallel market. So how that state can be run with the kind of the situation it found itself, I think is the next challenge for the person in charge of the state. So that is what I can say on this.
Right. Senator Shehu Sani, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure speaking with you on Politics Tonight. I've been speaking with Senator Shehu Sani, civil rights activist, author, and Pan-Africanist. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Please have a great weekend. And thanks a lot for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Good night.